Good evening. I'm Father Russ Carmichael, and you're on Street Talk with me. And I want to thank all my friends out there that allow us into your house and who follow us. Tonight I have with me Bonnie Rubenstein, filling in for Tambria Moore, who was going to be delayed with us. She's not going to be with us for a while. She's doing, what do you call that? Home child rearing stuff. Raising kids, right? She's dealing with her grandkids and stuff like that. So I know Tambria is probably watching, but she's not with us and isn't going to be with us for a while. So we do say hello and hope she's doing okay. And tonight I have, as I promised all my guests, and we've asked all the mayor candidates on, tonight I have Daryl Finizio back on, and he's on live.
Live this time.
Live. So
take the questions
you can
tonight.
take the questions,
I love it.
And if you want to call in and give him a hard time, you can call in tonight. You give me about 5 minutes or so, and then you can call in, and he'll answer questions for you. And we've given him a hard time. We've had him on. We've taped him on a couple of shows, so we've given him a hard time. But welcome.
Hey, well, it's good to be here. I don't think it's been that hard. I think I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it to heat up a little
well,
more.
So maybe
hoping, tonight's the night.
We're hoping it's going to be, a lot of debates and everything.
I hope so.
Next week, I want to make sure all my listeners know, next week, the two Raging Bulls are going to be in here. Me and Michael Bassetto are going to go heads-on next week. And,
do you have a referee picked out yet?
we may need you
I don't know. I have some
I know
keep the shots clean.
Maybe I should go make sure Tambria is going to be back next week.
I'm going to need you in.
I will. I'll be
That's
here.
why I got you into this, right?
No problem.
Because Mike and I tussle, and of course, as you found out that I don't fool around. I ask the hard questions. Somebody was talking about there's not too many people that go up to these politicians and go straight at them in the face and worry about what's said. But that's what we do.
That's right.
Because I believe you're elected, you're here to do service for us. If you get in a position, you're going to be working for me. And if I vote for you, you surely are going to be working for me. And Mike knows that's how I feel, and Rob Perot that's running knows. So most of the guys know and that I'm not fooling around. I want you to answer the questions. I may disagree with you. You may not like me, and that's okay. I don't care about that. But are you doing the stuff that my people, the kind of people that I come out and speak for, which are poor, lower working class, marginalized people, the disabled, are you doing things for them? If you are, then we're gonna support you, and if you're not, we're gonna try and get rid of you.
That's the way it goes, and that's the way it should be, especially when.
Knock you out.
That's right. It's the KO. You're going for the KO early. I'll tell you that, especially when you represent disadvantaged communities, someone has to be there looking out for them, because, as you've said many times, Father Russ, and you're dead on about it, people have to work. People are struggling. They don't have time all the time to stay up on all the politicians and go to all the meetings and see what's going on. So it's because of people like you that people get held to account, and that's what we need to have happen. If you go on the New London City website and you look at a chart of city government, at the top of that chart it says electors, voters, and from that city council, from that board of education. But at the top of that poll,
that's right,
are the people of the city of New London, and we need people who are looking out for them. So I'm glad to be here, and if I get elected, I expect the tough questions will even get tougher.
And that, that's the key. You got to be elected. You got to vote.
Yeah.
You all out there got to vote. You can't fool around. We need the vote, and you need to vote. You can't sit around and not vote, and that's the important thing.
If you don't vote, you can't complain. You got to go out and make a statement.
I know, Bonnie. This is the first time that you've met.
It is the first time,
Daryl, and.
And I didn't really know too much about the candidates in New London right now. Started to really read up on it, and I really read up on you a little bit this morning. So
all right.
For this.
Good.
Hopefully to be ready.
Well, it's early in the process, and it's getting further along now, where I think the race is starting to take shape. But it's still early, and people need to get to know us. And even the people who they already know in their roles on the council, this is a different race.
It is.
And even though I may know you, I still need to know what you're about and how you're going to approach this office. So for all of the candidates in this race, this is a process, and it's going to take a long time, and it's important. And hopefully people will be, subjecting us to a lot of scrutiny, because this is a very important election.
I think it's of huge importance. There's so much. New London, I grew up in New London, and I had said to you before, New London was and can be an incredible city. From the multicultural aspect to the education, the culture, the history, being on the ocean, everything that is here has so much to give and so much to offer. There was a time I feel when I was growing up that I thought it was incredibly progressive, incredibly family-oriented in every aspect. I saw some of it growing, then I saw it really go downhill. And it's
oh my goodness gracious! Forgive me. This is how professional we are. We're on TV. God bless you. We're on TV. We're in the middle of a show, so we'll have to. Okay, bye-bye. That was my associate Robert DeLello.
Oh yes.
And you know what? I better shut this off. I gotta shut this off because Angie will be calling
you next.
That's right. That's right.
My babies.
Well, you're so right to note that. Yeah.
I'm wondering, because I've seen it go up, and then I've seen it just hit rock bottom, and it's angering. What is some of what you're planning to do?
Well, I think that there's a lot in this race. I mean, New London needs new leadership across the board. And certainly, on the top 3 issues, if you were to strike them, is number 1, we have to radically improve our education system in the city of New London. Without significant investments in education, soon we are going to approach almost a point of no return, where we start losing our ADA funding, which is over $7 million. We could run in jeopardy of losing our accreditation. We could face at that point a state takeover. I mean, things could get truly horrible in our education system. So we need to move very quickly to improve our educational system, from facilities to curriculum to planning to just the entire methodology of approach to education we need to look at. From there, we obviously have a public safety complex within the city that is in need of overhaul. We have had a rising tide of criminal activity in the city, and some of that is due to the fact that some of our policing methodologies and public safety methodologies are behind the times, but also because our education system is behind the times. And so we need to improve that. We need to revitalize our physical plant. I mean, you talk about all the great physical attributes of New London, and we do. We have beautiful parks that have fallen into disrepair. We have beautiful beaches that aren't frequently used or promoted. We have a beautiful downtown where there are still boarded up buildings and boarded up storefronts. All the physical things we need are there, but they need to be revitalized. So from top to bottom, there's a lot to be done, and it's hard in 30 seconds or less to cover it all. But what I'll tell people who are watching is that if you go to www.finizioformayor.com, you can look at my entire platform, which is 40 pages. I know it's long, but it's called A Vision for New London. And it addresses all of these issues in greater depth. But our campaign is also doing town hall meetings. We had one on education already. That was our first meeting. Our next is March 26th, which we're holding at New London Pizza on Bank Street, which is our public safety town hall meeting. And we encourage people to come, not only to hear what my ideas are, but to give us your ideas as well, to ask me questions, and to engage in a dialogue about how we're going to turn that around. And we decided, by the way, to do that forum at New London Pizza because it's a new small business in our community that's struggling. It's run by an immigrant family, and because of a roof collapse in the building where they're located, many people were displaced. Many of those people were customers of that business, so the business is having a tough time, and we're trying to go down there and help a small business in New London, because a big part of what we're trying to do is change our economic development strategy from a large corporation approach based on bringing in a big company like Pfizer and thinking it's going to fix all your problems, to having an economic strategy based on small business growth, because it's a diversified small business economy that's more sustainable for the city of New London, and it's small businesses in New London that employ New Londoners. If you walk into Pfizer, there'll be a few people that worked for New London.
Yeah.
Most people worked out of the city. But if you go into any small business on Bank Street, you're going to find New Londoners. You're going to find people who live in New London. So we need to encourage these small businesses and help them out as much as we can.
Well, that was one of my concerns too, because years ago, local business was really pushed. Everywhere you go, up and down Bank Street, up and down State Street. And like you say, these businesses are boarded up. We have the potential, everything's here. And what's happening is people are leaving. And we need to keep them here. And even if we talk about tourism, or even the locals who go away for weekend, locals are running to Newport, they're running to Providence, they're running to the Cape. We have all the same things right here in New London County.
Absolutely. In New London City. In the city
right,
of New London.
City
And you know, a lot of these businesses, I talk to business owners even now, who are hanging on by a thread.
Yes.
Because rather than raise property taxes, which is more politically untenable, we have passed off that tax increase onto small businesses by increasing every fee and fine and penalty that small businesses face, so that small businesses have seen their tax burden go up and up and up to protect landowners, because if you raise the main mill rate, it gets noticed. It's front page news, and all of a sudden you're a tax increaser, and all of a sudden you're voted out of office. So rather than do that, they say, oh, I didn't raise your taxes. Well, you didn't raise my mill rate, but you raised my taxes, because all of a sudden every little fine and fee in the city went up, every little cost of doing business went up, and a lot of that's being borne by the small businesses. You also have a general political climate that isn't there for the small businesses. I mean, when and how you schedule street cleanings or snow removals, they'll do it at the time that's least opportune for the small businesses and things like that. And that's just one example of numerous examples of where small businesses feel that the problem just isn't that government isn't supporting them, but that government sometimes at the local level in New London seems almost to be out to get them, that we are not taking into account your considerations at all as we plan some of our city operations. And that's driving a lot of businesses out. I can't tell you how many people have said, I had a small business in New London and I left because I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's sad.
I know a lot of people that have done, I know people that have said that and done that, and there have been many times, I think it was last winter during one of the evening New London walks. I don't remember whether it was the food walk or whatever, and I had gone
Art
down there.
stroll or
whatever.
one of these great things.
And it was wonderful. I saw a lot of little new galleries popping up and some little new restaurants popping up, but it wasn't very well advertised or publicized, and it only ran for like 2 hours, where it should be going every weekend or once a month or something like that to really promote these new galleries and these new cafes, because what happens, they're there one day and they're gone the next because there's no promotion for them too.
Right.
And my concern too, it's like the activities in New London are so localized that lots of people don't know about what's happening, and whose fault that is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you get the message out. But when you're talking small businesses, and I don't mean to push this or make an aside of it, small businesses are also treatment centers. They're also, we have many facilities here that do treatment. We have SCAD. We have the homeless shelter that employs, well, when I developed it and first started, we had about 16 new jobs developed because of that. Not that I was in the business to make an agency out of it, which that's a whole show that I could talk about and stuff like that. But what my major concern was, and it gets me to this, social services. We had a great social service situation here in New London. We had 2 ladies that were in charge of that system. About 70 years of knowledge developed between the 2 of them. They knew how to deal with all the issues of everything from disabled people to people who had alcoholic problems to people who were getting evicted out of houses. And we had a city manager that did away with them because he said he didn't have $100 and some odd thousand. He was lying. Yeah. He was sitting on $1.5 million. We found that out later, and eventually he left, and he's gone. Mr. Brown, downtown Brown, got out of town. But well, we were very happy about that. But we lost social services. I guess from my perspective, I want to know, will you, as when you become mayor, bring back a social service situation to the city of New London?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't that easy?
That was
that was a little too easy because, like Father
That was
says, I've worked in this
it-
field for 20 years
yeah.
too, and the services have been diminishing and disintegrating.
It's a mistake, and the same
Yeah.
thing happened when they tried to harass and/or close the homeless shelters that exist in the city. Because there's a mindset that we're going to somehow, by closing the services, we will drive the problem away.
Oh, yeah.
Which
right,
we know
yeah.
doesn't work. That's
And
not
you
the
are
answer.
not
No.
going to drive the problem away.
No.
Even with our response to the violence situation, more of the response has been about looking like you're doing something or covering up what's going on than it's been really dealing with the problem. We need to deal with the problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And given that, we got a
All right.
caller right away, right?
Great.
Good evening. You're on Street Talk with Father, Bonnie, and the man running for mayor. Mr.
One of them, anyway.
One of them.
One of them,
Mr.
anyway.
Finizio.
How you doing, guys? This is Dennis from New London. I have a question for Daryl, and I have one for you, Father. First, I'll hit Daryl. I noticed that I never see you at any of the council meetings. Is there any particular reason for that?
Yes, there is. Since I declared in January, I have been finishing my teaching at Northeastern University. And I go up there 2 days a week. And one of the days I'm up there and up there late happens to be Monday night. But
okay.
that ends in, I think, about 4 weeks. And then from there on out, you will see me as a regular attendee. And certainly when the budget comes up, or if some other issues come up upon which I have something particular to say, I will not be shy.
I would like to see you at one, and I'd like to see you get up and ask them a question from the potential of running for mayor.
I will.
It would be interesting to see.
But one thing I will
in
tell you,
front-
Dennis, I do want to tell you that in spite of the fact that I have not been able to attend the meetings yet, I have been reviewing all of the minutes and notes and agendas from the meetings. I have reviewed tapes of the meetings, and I've also been meeting with the various heads of city departments and agencies. I have met with the head of the planning board, I have met with the police and fire chief, I have met with the finance director, and I've met with the law director. And I haven't just met with them to say hello, I've gone armed with a lot of questions. And right now, in fact, myself and 2 researchers who are volunteers working for the campaign are going line by line through the city budget. And very soon, myself and my campaign will have a lot to say about that. So,
You should
in
also
spite of the
go,
fact that I haven't been there at the meetings, which I will be soon, that doesn't mean I haven't been doing my homework, because believe me, I have.
No, it sounds like you've been busy. Another thing, you might want to go through the school budgets too.
Oh, absolutely.
But is it true that you've already started going door to door?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Okay, and I have a question for the father.
Go ahead.
I don't know how much do you know the sex offender facility that's going into Montville, or they're trying to put into Montville?
Yeah, I
I'd
know
like
a
to
little
hear
bit
your take
about
on
it. Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to hear your take on it.
What I think about it? Well, it's
Yeah.
well, I think as far as I'm concerned, I don't live in Montville, so it's kind of hard for me to say I'm in favor of it going into Montville. But obviously, the situation is something that we have to deal with. Okay, the individuals that are there and convicted under the Sex Crimes Act. Number one, I have a problem with them being in prison because I look at that as an illness, and I believe they belong under a mental situation versus a prison situation. But we have to deal with the problem. It's something we have to face, whether we like it or not. Dennis, I think you know I've got quite a few children, to say the least, and I wouldn't want any of my children hurt. But the sex offender